This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Usually this is not the case because you've had so many bowl appearances, but tomorrow will be the Arkansas Razorbacks' 45th bowl. 45th. And so you're just slightly behind them. So, but, you know, it's...
What are we at, 42?
This will be our 42nd. Yes. Yeah, this will be 42.
Yeah, so not too far back.
No. But, I mean, it's a couple teams that are used to having some postseason play. And for Sam Pittman, who's the coach of the Razorbacks, he will join this list. And it's a pretty good list with the exception of one name. He didn't really have a whole lot of success there, not compared to these other guys. To lead Arkansas to bowl games in 4 of their first 5 seasons. The other coaches to do that for Arkansas, Frank Broyles, Lou Holtz, Ken Hatfield. Many will remember him for what he did at Air Force, but he was a longtime coach. I say a long time. He had quite a bit of success at Arkansas. And then also Houston Nutt. And he didn't have a whole lot of success. I mean, he had success, but not like Frank Broyles and not like Lou Holtz. And even not like Ken Hatfield. But he had a modicum of success.
Sure.
But I mean, those guys are like, Frank Broyles is like, Bear Bryant level at Arkansas. Mm-hmm. When you think about it. And Frank Broyles,
yeah, no doubt.
Frank Broyles for years and years. I mean, at least for me as a kid growing up, he was on the ABC Game of the Week with Keith Jackson. And he was, at the same time, the athletics director at Arkansas. Could you imagine that happening today? There's no way.
No way.
No way. There's no way it would be allowed. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, Frank Broyles was so respected, as a coach and as a commentator.
That they let him do both.
That he just did both. I mean, I don't even know if there were. And really, there wasn't even any question. Of course, there was no social media to, question everything that everybody did, and be critical of everything that everybody did and not be complimentary. But the one thing that he would always say he was defensive minded guy, he'd always say, "Keith, they're shooting the gap. They're shooting the gap." He would always shooting the gap. That
was his go-to.
That was his catchphrase. Yeah, and he was right. I mean, they were, but he's shooting the gap. So Arkansas comes in 6-6. The Red Raiders come in 8-4. Arkansas was 3-5 in the SEC. Texas Tech was 6-3 in the Big 12.
It's funny, Chuck, to me, like I look at this game and we always talk about it's because it's such a different era of college football now, right? We talk about bowl games and who wants to be there more and who's more excited to be there and all that good stuff. But in today's college football landscape, we're instead the questions asked, well, who has more left? Who has more guys that are in the portal and who has more key guys in the portal or that are sitting out for the draft or whatever. So who's actually playing is so incredibly important. And I think it's interesting now that you may look at Arkansas and say, well, they've got this many guys in the portal. That's going to be hard for them to win. And that, I'm not saying that that's not accurate. But at the same time, don't we look at our situation here at Texas Tech and go, you're missing your starting quarterback, man. That's bad. You have no chance to win. But then we're all over here sitting going, no, our backup quarterback is talented. And he also probably is extremely motivated to play well in this game, right? So couldn't we then look at some of those Arkansas players and feel the same way? They may ultimately be more motivated than the guys that were playing in front of them because they're getting their chance to show what they can do. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're fighting for a roster spot next year. They're fighting for positioning, all of that. And so it's, I don't know, kind of backwards, and maybe you have two groups of guys that really are motivated about this.
Sure. It makes a lot of sense.
And maybe it'll make the game more entertaining.
Because I think if you're on Razorback 97.3 this morning, those are the things that you're saying, going, well, hey, this guy here, this guy here, this guy here, you can have a whole lot of fun, but he's really talented, and he was a 5-star and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And, they got a freshman quarterback.
Yeah. He's a true freshman.
Yeah.
Never started a game. They have no chance.
They got this guy, they don't even know if he's going to play or not. He's going to go off to the NFL as Taj Brooks guy, and They've got their backup quarterback he's in the portal.
Yeah.
So
he's not all in.
Yeah. he's just he's just kind of along for the ride.
Yeah, it's just the strange way that college football works now, and but maybe I'm trying to take the positive side of things. Maybe it makes both teams more motivated. If you have a bunch of guys for Arkansas that haven't gotten the opportunity to play that much, it's their time to shine. And over here at Texas Tech, you're not losing as many guys to the portal, but you definitely have a key guy in your quarterback who wants to say, hey, man, I should this is my chance, and you should consider me for starting quarterback next year. I'm turning in my application for starting quarterback position next year.
Yeah, because you have no idea what the recovery is going to be like with, Baron Morton. I mean, they say he's going to be ready.
I have an idea because they told us what the idea was.
Right, but
they said he would be ready for full practice in the summer.
They did say
just
that.
like he was last year when they said he would be.
They've said that. But
yeah, so I have an idea. I don't know how accurate it is, but I have an idea.
Yeah. No, you're right. They did say that. Let me give you a couple conversation starters or actual facts for people that want to go, this Texas Tech football team, it's just so. Okay. How about this? You have a 1,500-yard rusher and a 1,000-yard receiver for the first time in program history. Okay. In Taj Brooks and Josh Kelly. They are the only two in FBS, the only duo on the same team to hit those marks. The only ones. That's it. The only ones. Okay?
That's cool.
Texas Tech has won.
Wish they both were playing.
Right. Josh is not, and Taj looks like he's going to. Mm-hmm. Texas Tech has won 9 consecutive bowl games against unranked foes. It's the second longest streak by any team this century, behind only Utah's 10-game streak from 2001 to 17. Now, you wish you were playing a ranked foe because that means that you would be playing a better bowl. Yeah, right. Yeah. And then the other thing, with regard to Coach McGuire, so far, and you can talk about level of competition and all those things that you want, which is fair, he has 16 wins against Big 12 opponents in his first 3 years. That's the most for a Texas Tech head coach in the same span in school history. He is 16-11 against those Big 12 teams. Again, you can say, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? Okay, well, that's what you got right now.
I still put a lot into that one. I mean, the Big 12 has been odd over the last 3 seasons, no question. There hasn't been as dominant teams or whatever, but it's still the Big 12, and I think that's an impressive number.
Yeah.
The Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3 is presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Jeff McGuire, today is the 26th day of December, 2024.
We are running a little early. Trying to figure out how that happened. 1919 is where we will start. Yankees and the Red Sox reach an agreement to move some guy who thinks he can hit and pitch at the same time. Babe? They're trading a Babe. I don't know. Babe Ruth going to New York.
That'd work out pretty well for him.
We'll see.
For New York.
1943, National Football League Championship took place at Wrigley Field. Chicago Bears beat the Washington Redskins 41-21. It was the Bears' 6th title. 1960, National Football League Championship, Franklin Field in Philadelphia. Philadelphia Eagles beat the Green Bay Packers 17-13. What makes this loss special for the Packers?
It's their only one?
It's the lone playoff defeat for the Packers since Coach Vince Lombardi before the Packers established their dynasty. 1991, future Pro Football Hall of Fame coach Chuck Noll retires as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He basically coached every game for the Steelers from 1969 to 1991. And when I say basically, he did coach every single one of those games. So from when the Packers were playing almost to 1991, Steelers had one head coach. They've had a total of 3.
Yeah, because the next one, Bill Cowher.
Yes.
And now the current one, Mike Tomlin.
That's it. That's the whole list.
Just the craziest. I mean, that may be the craziest stat in sports, right? I mean, just how long the Steelers have been able to keep their coaches and how consistent they've been. And obviously they all did an awesome job.
That helps.
Yes, but it has to speak to the organization as a whole.
Yeah. And it's the same family that's owned them and passed down from one to one to one to one to one. But, the thing about the Steelers, and I think this stat is correct, they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. So when you think about, all the Steelers do is, they do win a lot. I mean, they have 6 Super Bowl championships, but they haven't
Yeah.
And now
they've gone what? Philly, Ravens, Chiefs. Man, that's a brutal stretch.
Yeah.
You must have looked at that before the season and said, what have we done to anger the NFL gods?
Right,
man?
right.
They kept winning. That's how the NFL punishes you.
And what did they do during that stretch? A big fat 0-for-3.
2004. Former Red Raider Zach Thomas has 9 solo tackles and assists on 9 more, with 3 of them being for a loss in a Dolphins 10-7 win over the Browns. This just in, he was really good.
Jamie, we talked about this a little bit on Tuesday with regard to Zach, that he probably would have been in the Pro Football Hall of Fame sooner had they had any kind of success in the playoffs while he was playing, because basically everything that he did was in the regular season. And I was listening to a game the other day on Double T 97.3, and they were talking about this guy has a chance to be the leading tackler, blah, 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 blah. And then they listed how many years in a row Zach Thomas was, the leading tackler for the Dolphins. You're like, God, people just never really got to see on a nationwide basis how really great he was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that he did so much without people knowing how great he was, because the Dolphins were never a factor.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And in 2023, the Detroit Pistons suffer a 118-112 loss to the Brooklyn Nets. Nothing to be ashamed of, except it was setting an NBA single-season record for their 27th straight defeat. Oof.
Well, and that cost the coach, he was pretty close to getting fired by that point in time.
Happy National Candy Cane Day. Feels like a day late.
It does.
But
or 2.
I'm still going to say if someone were to offer me a candy cane today, I would probably accept it and thank them for it.
I saw one yesterday, and it was the first time I'd seen one the entire holiday season.
What?
Like, are the candy canes just like going away? Are they?
No.
You were seeing them everywhere?
Yeah.
I am not seeing them anywhere.
Come to my house, and there's pretty good supply. So maybe
you bought them all.
Maybe we're hoarding candy canes. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the kids like them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about the adults.
I like the little ones.
Yeah, the little ones.
When you get to the really big ones,
I'm with Jeff on that.
Then you're fighting with something all day long.
But you get more flavors. Usually in the big ones.
I'm not opposed to more different flavors.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really the size.
Yeah. If they went away and were never seen again, I wouldn't miss them. I can't tell you the last time I had one. In a long time.
Yeah, I think they're really for the single-digit age kids for the most part.
Happy birthday, Chris Daughtry, who's 45. John Walsh is 79. Ozzie Smith, 70. And Carlton Fisk is 77. And on this day, 1776, at approximately 8 a.m., General George Washington's Continental Army reaches the outskirts of Trenton, New Jersey, and descends upon the unsuspecting Hessian forces guarding the city. Trenton's 1,400 Hessian defenders were still groggy from the previous evening's Christmas festivities and had underestimated the Patriot threat after months of decisive British victories throughout New York. The troop of the Continental Army quickly overwhelmed the German defenses, and by 9:30, Trenton was completely surrounded. Although the victory was minor from a strategic standpoint, it bore tremendous significance for the future Continental Army. Washington needed a success before the soldiers' enlistment expired on December 31st. Without a dramatic upswing in morale, he was likely to lose the soldiers under his command, and he would be unable to recruit new men to replace them. The victories at Trenton and a few days later at Princeton proved the American public that their army was indeed capable of victory and worth support. And that is this day in sports history.
They must have gotten the water out of their boots because they'd crossed the Potomac, on Christmas night?
Delaware, okay.
On Christmas night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 6:52 this morning here on the Morning Drive. Thank you for being with us today. Thoughts, comments, Yates Flooring Center chat line. Go to WT973.com for that of the mobile app. Let's see here. One other little fact for you, which I think is significant. Texas Tech is looking to end its season with a fourth consecutive victory in a bowl game. This will be the first time that this has ever happened in school history. Remember, you've been to 42 of these things. There's only one other school to be able to do that in each of its last 3 seasons. Only one. Only one other school has won its last 3 bowl games.
Okay.
Do you want to take a guess?
I really would have no idea.
Alabama.
No.
Georgia.
Yes. I mean, that's pretty tall cotton there.
Yes, except, I mean, you know that
the
you've
level.
been playing at the lowest of level of bowl
I know,
game.
but
I mean, you
there's-
played in the Independence Bowl last year. I mean, it's good that you've won all 3. Yeah, but I'm not going to compare us to Georgia.
No, I'm not either.
The bowl games they're playing.
And really
in.
what my thought was not necessarily the comparison to Georgia, but was the comparison to all the other schools that played in these lower level bowl games that haven't had the success of winning 3 in a row.
Yeah, but you just said Georgia's the other team, and that's high cotton there.
It is high cotton.
But you're not really there.
No, I know
They're
that.
playing in big ones. You're playing in
I know.
little ones.
Yeah, right. I know. I just, again, my point was
I think
there's 2 points there.
I think coaches have they have to figure out how to make it work, how to push their guys, give their guys time rest and all that. And some coaches are good at it and some are not. I think Joey McGuire is good at it. I think he has figured out what the right amount to practice them, right amount to give them time off, right amount to work out with the young guys, right amount to give the veteran guys, some rest and all that kind of stuff, and still keep them motivated. And I think that speaks well for what he and his coaching staff have been able to do. I really do, because I think a lot of it's about motivation.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're probably right about that.
Your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Jamie Lent and Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Heinz. Hey, a tip of the Morning Drive hat, Jamie, to the volunteers and supporters of what will this year be the 65th Caprock Classic. The Ambucks men and women and volunteers and their supporters put this tournament on all across our city. It starts today. It goes through the 28th. Teams are guaranteed 4 games to play, and the money is used to provide children and adults with disabilities trikes. I mean, they give away a ton of these things. And, it's awesome because it's like the world's largest high school basketball tournament in one place, and it's here in our fair city. So there'll be people from all across Texas and other parts coming in. I think there have been times when there's been a team from Australia or something along those lines.
Yeah, a couple seasons ago.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So if you have a chance to get out and you're looking for something to do, or maybe you've got your in-laws in town, or you've got family members in town, you're like, hey, there's a basketball tournament going on. Would you guys like to go? And you buy them tickets.
Okay.
Or maybe you take them and the gym is right over there, and then I'll park the car and be right back.
Yeah.
And then come back after the game is over and pick them up.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were coming. I got a call from the missus, and she ran out of this, or the pipe broke in the bathtub. Had to go home right away, get it fixed.
Okay.
Okay. Need an excuse? Just call me up. I'll be able to find one for you pretty easily.
Yeah, just being completely honest, the tickets aren't super cheap, but it's for a great cause, and so you really appreciate what they're trying to do, and so it's all worth it.
Yeah, so it's all worth it.
A lot of good basketball.
So that goes on today through Saturday. All right, Texas Tech playing in the Liberty Bowl tomorrow. We'll have coverage for you all day long tomorrow on our road to the Liberty Bowl. Optimum Game Day live coverage tomorrow. It all it begins at the morning drive, but then our microphones are traveling today to Memphis, and we'll have coverage from Memphis tomorrow until 5, and then we'll take you inside the stadium with the Red Raider Tailgate Show, and then play-by-play with Brian Jensen, John Harris, and Chris Level here on Double T 97.3 tomorrow night as they take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. The starting quarterback for the Texas Tech Red Raiders will be the freshman Will Hammond. Joey McGuire was asked about Hammond and his thoughts overall on Will, and here is Coach McGuire.
Man, I put a smile on my face because it's fun right now being around that kid because he and Barron have talked a lot, actually, and then Barron actually will be back tomorrow night. Well, I guess he's late tonight. I talked to him earlier this morning. Will, I think he gets the ball out really fast. I mean, he's got a quick release. He's got a really strong arm. The one thing that we haven't done a lot this year was, we haven't run our quarterback in certain situations, and that was, designed. I think he brings a little bit of that. He's not somebody that we don't want to run the quarterback a bunch, but he'll bring that. He's one of those dudes that, like, everybody on this football team in this building loves Will Hammond. He prepares like a guy that's a fifth-year vet. And he lives in this building, and he's really fired up. So when you hear about, hey, we hadn't run the quarterback a whole lot, it's obvious because now maybe it appears that Baron Morton's shoulder was not 100% going into the season, and probably we knew that, just didn't think that. And then you kind of wonder, okay, were there some plays or throws that he wasn't able to make, but then the last game that he played was maybe one of his best games, the West Virginia game. So it's hard to say that as well. So maybe you could probably overthink that more than you want, but it will be interesting to see what Hammond's able to do, as a freshman, first start, bowl game, big stage.
Okay, so a couple different things here. First, I'll go where you went first. Barron said that the injury didn't cause him to affect him at all this season, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't agree with that?
Well, I mean, I guess not, because to a degree, because if it hadn't affected him, then they might have run the ball a little bit more. And does that change how your offense looks a little bit? In other words,
that was a very politician answer.
Okay, well, so I guess no, I don't, because I think that
I don't know that it affected Barron. I think it affected the play calling around Barron.
Well, definitely, and that's what Coach McGuire just said there.
Yeah.
That they didn't run him as much.
I don't think it was just the running either. I don't think they called other things because the Barron doesn't think it affected him, while the coaches see something that he is not as good at as before.
And they protected him from, which is fine. That's
for
that's
example, if they didn't think that he could throw the ball deep, they didn't throw it as much deep because they didn't trust his arm.
Or just the strength of it, or all those. I just think there was I think that they compensate, which that's what coaches do. They have to compensate for their players' either shortcomings or limitations or injuries or just abilities. And not everybody is perfect. But I think there was some compensation done, and out of protection for him, they didn't say, well, we couldn't run this off-tackle play with Baron Morton because he's got a dinged-up shoulder, because then everybody would go after his shoulder. Or we didn't throw deep.
Our off-tackle play was Taj Brooks on the Wildcat, and he was really good at it.
And he was right.
Let's not stop something that's working.
So do you think Barron said what he said to basically be the guy that's, I don't want to make any excuses?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's a bad thing of what he said. I think it's just a fact that shoulder is not.
In this case, 100%. More than two things can be true. I think Barron doesn't think the injury held him back. I think the coaches saw the injury and went, we're going to do some things different, but that doesn't mean he's being held back. We're just doing some things different to protect him.
His 90-something% is better than everybody else's 100% that we have on the team right now.
But Barron was basically saying he was at 100%.
Barron saying he's 100% and the coaches thinking he's 100% are two different things.
Can be two different things.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying.
That's interesting. I didn't really have an opinion either way on that. Hearing Chuck say what he said, I don't know. There were times when Barron had a couple of bad games throughout the course of the season, and I think we all immediately jumped to, I don't think he's healthy. Okay. Mm-hmm. But we sure didn't say that when he was killing it, including at the end of the season. No. His best 2 games were the last 2 games of the year.
And who knows?
Okay.
Man.
And so now he's having the surgery. So I don't know if that doesn't bode well for your point that, he wasn't healthy. That's now why he's having the surgery. Because if he played his best, unless he played his best while it was bothering him.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe he also decided to go ahead and go all out, knowing that he was going to have the surgery, and go, hey, once we're kind of eliminated here from Big 12 play after you lost to Colorado, and I'm going to see what I can do here. I'm like, okay, yeah, it feels good now, but it didn't feel good the next day or the 2 days after the game, and then it felt good for the last game, and then it's like, okay, in order for me to get where I want to be, which is I want to be in the National Football League.
Yeah, I think he's having the surgery for the long-term reasons, that for him to be 100% at his best, he knows in the future it needs to get fixed. So that's why I don't know. I don't know what to take away from all of that, but I don't think that it was causing him. Like I said, at times during the year, I think we jumped to conclusions when he had a bad game and we said, is he healthy? Mm-hmm. And I don't think that was necessarily the issue. I think he just had bad games. And, I think that's proven by at the end of the season he looked his best. Okay. You would have thought it would have gotten worse as it went along, and that clearly wasn't the case.
Yeah, you certainly can make that point. Yep. 7:24 this morning here on the Morning Drive. Jamie's question of the day is that you should have a fistful of them. After being gone for a couple of days. Shouldn't have them just coming out of your ears, questions. So pick the best one you got.
Okay. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Jamie's question of the day on Double T 97.3 is brought to you by Connecticut of West Texas.
All right, guys. We have our college football playoff in full swing now. Mm-hmm. First round, all excited to get there. Games were kind of duds, unfortunately. I was hoping for a little bit better, but we didn't quite get that. So I want you to take the next 4 and the quarterfinal round that we've got, the next 4 games. I want you to rank them in order of how close you think they'll be. Which one will be the closest? That'll be number 1. Which one will be the least close? Number 4. So basically trying to figure out which matchup do you think is the best.
All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4, 3, 2, 1?
The closest will be 1.
Okay.
The biggest separation will be 4.
Okay. All right, I'm going to start with the biggest separation. I'm going to go the 4th to the closest. I think Boise State and Penn State, I think that'll be a blowout for Penn State. I think that'll be a, 14 or more point difference of score, at least, maybe 21. I think Ohio State, Oregon is going to be next. I think that's, even though it came down to basically the last play that they weren't able to get off the field or get down quick enough to get a field goal when they played earlier in the year, I think Oregon wins this game by 10 or more. I think they're just better, and Ohio State just won't be able to muster up. I think Notre Dame, Georgia is going to be close, maybe a touchdown game. And I think the game that's going to be the closest, and I may, even though Arizona's the 4 seed and Texas is the 5 seed, Texas is favored by 13.5. I think Arizona State might win this game. I think it's going to be a close game. So I think that'll be the closest game of the 4 that we played there in the quarterfinals.
It's definitely the one that I want to be the closest. Although I'd be okay if it was a blowout for Arizona State.
Yeah. If I could pick the one I want to be a blowout, it's Arizona State blowing out Texas. However, I've got that as the biggest chance for a blowout for Texas. So I've got that at number 4.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Penn State versus Boise at number 3. For a lot of the same reasons that Chuck's got it at number 4, I've got it at number 3. I've got Georgia Notre Dame at number 2, and I think your closest game is going to be Oregon at Ohio State. I think Oregon wins this game, but they got no favors in being the number 1 seed with Ohio State being their opponent. No favors whatsoever.
Okay, so I think I'm close to an agreement with you guys. I think 4th on the list so the widest separation, Penn State over Boise State. It'll just be interesting to see if Penn State's able to make them one-dimensional, aka slow down their run game, and see if Boise State can beat them with the pass. That'll be fun. That'll be fun to see. Penn State sure did look good against SMU. For me, the second one is Texas over Arizona State. I want to believe that Arizona State can shorten this game, run the football, keep the Longhorns' offense off the field. Their offense is not just spectacular. So if they can grind it out and make this a low-scoring football game, I think Arizona State would have a chance, but I'm just fearful they're not going to be able to do that. So that's number 3 for me. Number 2 for me is Ohio State and Oregon. I would not be shocked to see Ohio State win that game. Just have this feeling that no particularly smart reason on my part. It just feels like that can, because Oregon won the first time, because I don't know, everything's gone negative for Ohio State with the questions of their coach. Maybe they just all dig in and they are able to get that one. And then the one that's most intriguing to me as far as like not being able to predict what's going to happen is Notre Dame and Georgia. Georgia's, going to play without their starting quarterback, and they're going to play a young guy who doesn't have a ton of experience. And he looked good in the SEC championship game. There's no question. And he's had time with the first team and all that stuff that's positive. But Notre Dame's also going to be able to, prepare for him and just give him different looks, maybe confuse him a little bit. So, and I think Notre Dame's a decent football team. Obviously, that game against Indiana was not nearly as close as the score showed. So, I don't know. That's the one to me that I think is going to be the closest. I think we have the potential for much better games than we got in the first round, and I hope that's the case.
Yeah, right. You hope that's the case. Did you walk away with any kind of feelings that Indiana didn't belong or shouldn't have been in the college football playoff? Or
well, those are two different things, okay? Because honestly, I didn't think SMU, Boise State, or Indiana were the top 12 teams in college football. But at the same time, the teams that were just on the outside, they had huge warts too.
Yeah.
And so I'm not one that thinks the committee necessarily got it wrong. Mm-hmm. I just think we all dream of this world where we get the fun and the excitement of the NCAA tournament first round, right? Well, number one, I think football, the odds of an upset in football when there's a wider gap is way less than in basketball. In the first round of the NCAA tournament, teams go in there, in basketball tournament, teams go in there that are 1 seeds, 2 seeds, 3 seeds, and they're playing some school that they never heard of, way overconfident, okay? And as we know, basketball, especially if you're a three-point shooting team, you can, all of a sudden you just have a bad day and it becomes contagious and you lose. I don't think that happens as much in football, especially in a college football playoff scenario. We see upsets in college football, but these are teams in a 12-team playoff that are going to be fully motivated. You're not going to get a team, I don't think, that's just, or the odds of it are very, very low, that are going to overlook their opponent or whatever when you're talking about playing 4 games for a championship. I just don't see that happening. very often at all. So as much as I want it to go to 16 and would like to think that it's going to get there, I still think we're going to see a lot of easy wins in the first round of this team, because I think probably each and every year there's probably about 6 teams that we're all certain deserve to be in the playoff. And there's 6 other teams that, they've kind of earned their way in, but we don't really think they're one of teams that could win a championship. So football's different than basketball, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing about basketball is a lot of times these teams that get the upset over the single-digit seeds in the first round are teams that have played together for a long period of time, and it's a senior-laden team against a team that's put together.
Your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Come to you this morning from the First United Bank studio here on the day we call the day after Christmas, Boxing Day. Did you know that? Boxing Day in Canada. Okay. Mm-hmm. No? Fascinating. Yates
I've heard that before.
Yates Flooring Center chat line is open. The Visual Edge IT hotline is open. All right, I have saved this, and I thought I just did some quick research on this, because we were talking about, you heard the depth on the defense in the off season, right? And then we've heard the injuries, and we've used that as a excuse, reason for part of your defensive problems. So I saved the week 1 depth chart that Texas Tech put out, and I wanted to compare that at the very end because of the depth situation to see how it would compare at the end of the season, okay?
Okay.
So on offense, there are only 4 positions of the 11 where your depth chart is the same as it was for week 1. Tight end, center, the H position, and the X position from the receiving group standpoint, okay? On the offense, there's 28 guys listed on the either 2 or 3 deep, because in some cases they have an or by them. So there's 28 players listed. Of those 28, 7 starters that were on the week 1 depth chart are on the Liberty Bowl depth chart as a starter, okay? 7 of your 11. There are 6 backups still listed on your Liberty Bowl depth chart, and 3 that were either in a backup position or listed as an or, okay? Or third on the depth chart in the case of Cam Dickey, who's now listed behind Taj Brooks, but on the week 1 depth chart, he was behind Cameron Valdez, who got injured. So on the defense, there's 26 listed on the 2 deep or the 3 deep or the or position. And there's no ors on defense. There are just some that were listed as 3 deep. Of your 11 starters, 8 are still going to start in the Liberty Bowl.
Okay.
8 of your 11. Of your backups, there are still 8 that are listed. Okay? And then on the third position, there's 2. Mm-hmm. So there's a total of 18 left of the original 26. There's 16 left of the original 28 on offense. So
you'd also have to mention that one of your rush end you lost first day of practice before they even made it to the first week.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. And then there's a starter listed here, Charles Esters III, who wasn't available week 1 because of injury.
Yeah, who missed time and came back.
And he's now on the depth chart.
That would probably factor into, I wonder, some of these guys missed time, but they're back and healthy now.
Yeah, so this will come as no surprise to you. Your biggest deficiencies are in your backfield, where you still have your starter Braylon Lux, but he missed a number of games in there. He didn't play all 12 games. And Chapman Lewis, he spent some time injured during the season. C.J. Baskerville and Mo Horn were also guys that are still listed as starters, that were listed as starters for week 1. But you only have, of your backups in the defensive backfield, not including the star position, you have just 2 of your backups that are left. Joseph Plunk, who's been basically demoted to a third-string player now. He was listed as a backup week 1. And then Jordan Stanford, who's still listed as a backup on the cornerback standpoint. Mm-hmm. So this really doesn't bode well for somebody like me who said, well, you got injured a lot because you still got a lot of players left here.
Yeah, but at the same time, some of those guys did get injured and miss games during the season,
Sure.
but they're back
They're
now.
back, right, yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean they stayed the whole time through.
Yeah, it's not a full scientific, study, but I just thought it would be, like I said,
You were thinking we were going to see there were only 3 or 4 starters back on one side of the ball compared to where you started.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. So I thought there might be more of a deficiency. And again, like you said, there were times when these guys either A, weren't 100% or weren't available or got injured during a game. And so there's a lot of factors that are in here, but still there's a lot of guys left. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guys. It's not like you're playing.
And some of the problems were is that you lost them the same time you lost other guys at that position.
Yeah, because some of the guys that you lost along the way, due to Banks, that was a big loss for you. Harvey Dyson III, that was a big loss for you. Bryce Ramirez was listed as a backup to Jacob Rodriguez, and he is still out. Those outside linebackers, Joseph Adedire, that was a big loss for you. And then, in the backfield, losing a guy like Jalen Peoples, who's in the transfer portal, but he was listed as a backup. But maybe he's an addition by subtraction because he took himself and Micah Hudson. They both left together. So maybe he was a problem. I have no idea.
I don't know. Did Peoples end up going to A&M also?
No, I don't know where he ended up, but he's out. Maybe that room just kind of poisoned each other. With that apartment or whatever it was. Maybe those guys. I don't like it either. Let's get the hell out of here.
Don't put anybody in that apartment anymore.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's bad karma. So anyway, that was a little practice that I had because see. This is something that
the stat that would probably be really good for us to see is the number of starts missed by starters.
Sure, yeah.
That would be a good one to kind of judge this a little bit more as to how many did you really miss. And there's also something to be said for if he's let's just, for example, you're talking about your defensive side of the ball. Well, you lost your left, your left defensive end. Okay, well, what if for one team that may be a big deal because you don't have a guy that's right behind him that's really good. But for another team, no big deal because he barely beat out the other guy. They were 1A and 1B. Mm-hmm. And so, and maybe some of it this year was just some really bad luck. And the guys that you did lose, that you didn't have somebody that was right behind them, that was fighting for that spot. And so, I don't know.
And maybe when you lost him, too, compared to who you were playing, like whether it was the Colorado game or the TCU game, or because the TCU game, that you had deficiencies in your backfield, and your freshman got burned on 2 big explosive plays that ended up being a difference in the ball game. Wasn't the whole reason why you lost, was a big reason why you lost, or couldn't hang on to the lead at least.
This has been the Morning Drive Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.